gotta stop. Thank you very much. First, I'm going to get it out of the way right away. Everybody seems to say something about Neil, so hello, Neil. I want to really talk more about relationships and the need to not factor that out of our lives, because really all of the matrix, all of the evaluations that our people are doing, it always comes back to them dealing with people they want to deal with, as well as just the general health of our industry. So I think it's pretty amazing that Paul McCartney, who can buy and probably sells millions of t-shirts, was so excited about getting that t-shirt. And when we go to games, we have the same kind of scenario where my son is all excited and he wants to get the t-shirt. I'm really excited if we actually sold the t-shirt at the same time, so that works for me. The salesperson, who is that? And I think that there's a lot of misconception and beliefs that our family, our friends, and the general public of what salespeople do, and specifically in our industry. So I kind of thought I'd do a little bit of a summary. So this is what our friends think we do. This is what our customers think we do. This is what my mom thinks we do. It's what we think we do. What society thinks we do. And what we really do. So I think that when you put that into perspective, you have to say, what's your job? And it's true for distributors, it's true for suppliers. And I usually preach, if you will, two very simple concepts that is true in every case. We're supposed to take stress away from our customers, and we're supposed to make our customers look good. That's it. That's our job. It obviously becomes very complicated in what the public and your customer thinks is a very, very simple business. How difficult can it be to put a logo on that? It's really simple, and we've all faced it where a distributor looks at what a supplier does and says, oh, I can do that. Our customer looks, the end user customer looks at it and says, why do we need you? And a lot of it comes down to the trust. They need to trust that you're going to do that. You're going to make them look good, and you're going to take stress away from them. And really understanding what your job is, when there's a problem, telling them that it was their fault isn't helping. Telling them that you didn't submit the order correctly isn't helping. Because at the end of the day, they have to go to their boss and say, it was my fault. Well, they're not doing that. They're saying it was your fault. Again, there's Neil. It was his fault. So there's the relationship. So the relationship of a salesperson in a distributorship, I think, and we try to build it so that we don't have to micromanage every single person. And it's really not even just true for the salesperson, it's for your entire team. What you want to do is set up your organization so that what's good for them is good for you, what's bad for them is bad for you. You shouldn't really, unless you're in a very small environment, want to touch and look at every order, approve every margin, deal with every customer complaint. When we have an issue with a supplier, we like to be able to ask someone who's been empowered for the solution. And we want them to make us look good and take stress away. It really always comes back to that. The relationships with the vendors. So again, there's so many players involved in our relationship, from the person who actually wanted the order in the first place, from the procurement person, the marketing person, and then they come to you and they're too busy, so they kind of explain it to you, and then that's only getting to the distributor. Then the distributor goes to the supplier. It's a really long chain of communication, and I think that respecting that chain and respecting all of the challenges is really what our job is, and what we really need to do is spend a lot of time educating ourselves in what other people do. And let's kind of look at this next little
This was marked 1999.
Yeah.
Well, I've only got $7 set aside for this.
I'll pay for the highlights next time, but for now, I need you to just go ahead and throw them in.
So basically, you want me to work for free?
No, I don't want you to work for free. It's just a test. That way I can see if my husband likes it, and then you can roll the cost over until the next time I need color if he likes it.
You know, when you look at that, I think one of the biggest mistakes so many of us do as a distributor is we actually try to deal with this. And we take their ridiculous situation and we go to our supplier and we plop it on them. And then at the end of the day, we all look bad and we all have problems. So I think that understanding what can be done, respecting that just plopping it down and blaming your supplier or pushing it through. And I see so many orders where it's sort of too late to say no. And you have to say yes, but the answer can't be yes because you can't do it. So I think when people are asking for ridiculous things, it's really important that the salesperson stands up and says, you know, we can't do that. I'm going to do that one in a minute, but the listening and the relationships are really what it's all about. And actually educating ourselves in what our supply chain is about. I know when I started in this industry a long time ago, I didn't just issue a purchase order because I got the sale, but I actually went to the vendor and I understood what they do. And when you understand what they do, you can be of value. And that's really what you have to be, is of value. So I had a customer come to us, ironically was referred to us by someone who I didn't think liked me at all. They gave me a really good opportunity. They were impressed with our operation, they were impressed with what we did, so they said, you know what, I was going to give this a few orders to this other guy and a few orders to your company, but I'm going to give it all to you. And then he got to a mug. And he said, okay, it's butt registration, I want it, or he didn't say it, but it was, on both sides of the mug. I said, well, you can't actually do that on both sides. And I explained to him why, in not too technical terms. And he says, well, the other guy said that, you know, he can do it. And I said, well, he really doesn't know what he's talking about. He can't do it. And he said, well, you know what? He really was convincing, so I'm going to give him that order. I'll give you the rest of it. And I said, I understand, but I'm going to put the paperwork on the side here, and you have to make me 3 promises. You're not going to give him any money. You're going to make sure that he shows you a pre-production sample. And then when he actually tries to sell you what I told you need to do, that you don't give him the order, you come back and give it to me. And you have to have the knowledge and the respect for all the people behind you to not go to them and ask them to do something that's not doable. And I think that's a really big problem.
Listen.
Okay, what?
Like everything they do at this house, it can't trust everything at Grandma's house.
Okay.
Okay, then what?
Sorry, it was a little loud. I find that we all want other people to listen to us, but we all probably should listen to other people more. And I think that's really, really key. In most conversations, when your customer comes to you, they're telling you about their problems. You need to understand what your supply chain's problems are, and you need to work with the supply chain so that you don't perpetuate those problems. And like I said, it's very interesting that the listening is one of these things that we expect other people to listen to us and don't do it as much. The same way in showing appreciation. When you think of the supplier, the distributor, so many people on the distributor side will complain that their customer doesn't ever show an appreciation. But then they don't show any appreciation to the supply chain. So I think that you have to always look and say what you expect from other people, you need to give as well. And you know, there was a scenario we were quoting on a fairly large order, and the salesperson said, you know, I can't believe this supplier, they charged me a $30 setup charge on a 15,000 piece order. That's crazy. So I said, well, did you quote your client already? And they said, yeah. I said, did you charge them a setup charge? Well, yeah. So I said, well, if it was crazy for them to do it, why isn't it crazy for you to do it? And the answer was, well, it's a real cost I have. And somehow they don't actually know. Maybe they've never been in a factory and know that that was a real cost for the supplier. When I was in the silk screening business and we had clients that were complaining about the setup charges for screens, if it was possible, I invited them down to our factory. I showed them every step of making a screen. And never did they ever complain again. It never happened. They accepted it. So I think that it still comes back to those relationships, and it's a give and take. And I sometimes make the joke that, it's really simple for suppliers. You give and we take. And sometimes that's actually true with certain people. And we have to look at that and say, it is that partnership. We can't just talk partnership. We have to try to live it. And I think in the sales process, that's really important to do much more of. I talked about value, obviously. On the recruiting, training, and managing, it's a real, kind of simple concept in that I think you have to be transparent, you have to lead by example, you have to work hard, and you can't expect more from your staff than yourself. The other thing when you're looking to hire a salesperson, I think that the two things that I see most in successful salespeople is passion, hard work. I said two, good, because I couldn't think of the third. And those are two really, really important things. And when you look at it, they need to be someone that you want to give the order to. And I have some salespeople that may not be great at crossing the T's and dotting the I's, but their customer wants to support them. And when your customer wants to support you, then that makes sense. And the reason they want to support you is because somewhere you're supplying value. And I think that, you talked about it, when you look at an RFP, you have to say, where do I fit? And where do we bring value? And if we don't bring value, you shouldn't be in that game. And I think that too often, people want to be in a game that they shouldn't be in. If you're not equipped to handle that, you really shouldn't do it. We had a supplier that I'm personal friends with that was a relatively small supplier, never really proactively went after our business because he knew what he was good at and what we required wasn't a mesh. And so we didn't do a lot of business, but we did some business. Now he's a little bit bigger and he actually is in a better position, so now he's doing it at the right time. So really the sales equation is the same for a supplier and a distributor. It's you have to bring value to your customer. That was in my original presentation. To be a great place to work was kind of going to fly in after, but a little note: when you're doing a presentation, don't bring it on one USB, because if it's corrupted, you got to recreate it when you get here. So that's my shtick. Thank you.